If you've been scrolling through endless listings of dish sponges, weighing the cheap synthetic pads against the fancy, eco-friendly options, and you still feel stuck about which one actually lives up to the hype, this review is here to settle the debate. I've spent the past week swapping out my usual kitchen scrubbers for a 12-pack of AIRNEX natural sponges, and I'm ready to walk you through what it's like to use them day to day. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First, let's talk about why the decision feels so weighty. In a world where every purchase gets a green label, the fear of buying something that looks sustainable but ends up being a performance nightmare is real. You don't want a sponge that falls apart the moment you hit a stubborn casserole, and you also don't want one that leaches chemicals into your food or clings to a funky smell after a few washes. The sweet spot is a scrubber that cleans well, dries quickly, and actually decomposes when you toss it in the compost. That's the promise AIRNEX makes, and it's worth testing against the everyday chaos of a family kitchen. The pack comes with 12 shaped sponges made from a blend of cellulose fibers and coconut husk. The design is meant to give you a firm grip and a surface that can tackle both delicate plates and tougher pots without scratching. From the moment I opened the box, the sponges felt a bit different from the typical yellow foam you see at the grocery store. They're a natural off-white and have a slightly grainy texture that you can actually see the fibers of. I started by using one on a stack of everyday dishes, glasses, ceramic plates, and a few plastic containers. The sponge lifted food particles without needing a lot of elbow grease. On a ceramic plate with dried sauce, a quick circular motion removed the residue in a couple of swipes. The coconut fibers gave a gentle abrasive quality enough to break down stuck-in bits, but not enough to leave a swirl on the glaze. That balance is something synthetic sponges often miss. You either get a scratchy pad that damages fine wear or a soft pad that can't handle anything beyond light rinsing. The next test was a stubborn skillet that had been used for sautéing onions and garlic the night before. After letting it soak for 10 minutes, the AIRNEX sponge, when damp, managed to lift the caramelized bits without the need for harsh steel wool. I did notice that the sponge's edge started to fray a little after a few minutes of scrubbing the burnt area. That's the trade-off of a natural material. It gives you that non-scratch confidence, but it also wears a touch faster than a synthetic polymer when you push it hard. For most home cooks, the wear will be acceptable, but if you regularly tackle heavily burned cookware, you might need to replace sponges more often than you would with a synthetic heavy-duty pad. One of the biggest selling points of these sponges is their fast-drying and odor-resistant claim. After washing a load of dishes, I left a couple of sponges on the rack to air dry. Within an hour, the surface was dry to the touch, and there was no sour smell developing. Many users of traditional sponges complain about that old sponge odor after a few days of use, especially when they stay damp in the sink. The cellulose coconut blend seems to wick moisture away more effectively, and the natural fibers don't trap bacterial growth as readily. In my kitchen, the sponges stayed neutral smelling for the entire week I tested them. Another practical angle is the compostability factor. When a sponge finally loses its grip, usually after about 20-30 washes, depending on how aggressively you use it, you can toss it into a backyard compost bin. The manufacturer states the sponges break down within a few months in a proper compost environment. If you're serious about reducing kitchen waste, that's a tangible benefit. Of course, if you live in an apartment without a compost system, the advantage is more about the reduced plastic footprint during production rather than end-of-life disposal. Now, who should actually consider buying these? If you're a home cook who values a sponge that handles everyday dishes, light sauce removal, and occasional pot cleaning without scratching, and you also care about the environmental impact, the AIRNEX pack fits nicely. The 12-pack size is especially handy for families. You can have sponges stationed at multiple sinks, in the dishwasher, or even keep a few in the garage for outdoor grilling cleanup. For anyone who runs a small CAF, the bulk quantity could also cut down on the frequency of reordering, assuming the wear rate matches your usage. On the flip side, if you're a professional chef who needs a scrub that can survive relentless, heavy-duty scraping on cast iron, stainless steel, or enamelware, you might find the natural fibers giving up a little sooner than you'd like. Likewise, if you're looking for a sponge that can double as a polishing pad for delicate glassware, something with an ultra-soft side, these may not be the best fit, as the shape,